Hey guys, and welcome back to Live Well and Yoga. I'm your host, Christine Demal. Thanks so much for coming back and listening in. It means a lot to me. And of course, I'm just here to hopefully inspire you and support you on your self care and personal development journey. I've been on mine for quite some time, and I've just been learning throughout every experience. And over time, I feel like I've just become more self aware, truly understanding myself. And seeing, recognizing repetitive patterns and redirecting if needed. And so I'm just here to support you and hopefully inspire you to find a better version of yourself because I know from firsthand experience what it's like to not live authentically by just going with the flow, by going with other people's flow. And even when I thought I was in my own flow, I was still people pleasing and going in the direction that wasn't aligned with me. So, just through self care, giving back to myself, and reading self help books, personal development books, and truly understanding my actions, I've been able to set boundaries and determine what really is authentic to me, whether it was, stepping away from a certain situation or redirecting if needed. But, I've learned so much throughout the way or throughout this self care journey. So I just want to share everything that I've learned just so maybe it'll help you if you are maybe stuck in a rut or even if you feel like there's something more, like you don't necessarily feel fulfilled. Of course, maybe you feel grateful for everything that you have, but there's something that's missing. And I truly feel that it comes from just filling your own cup. We could have the greatest job, we can make the most money, we can have all these external sources, but something from within just needs to be fueled from the inside out. Not that having those external sources or external things or material things is a bad thing, but you have to fuel your own cup first. And then all that external and material things will come into play and come into your life when not to fulfill a void, but perhaps just a reward for all the hard work. So if you are feeling like you are missing something, it truly is just filling your own cup with self-care, with self-love. And so when you do that, that's when you can, you don't fill that void with material things. And so that's kind of what I want to talk about today in this episode is just elevating yourself, whether it's physical, mental, spiritual, in whatever it is that you need to elevate. We could be on a self care journey. Like, for example, I was on the self care journey and I was really consistent with my morning walks and my yoga practice, but I just needed something more, at least when it came to my fitness routine. So last year I added resistance training, which was really great. I have 5 pound weights. So I just did resistance workouts at home. And then after, a few months, I needed something else. So I added in mat Pilates, which really focuses on the core. And so that was giving me an overall not just focusing on arms or legs. Now I can really incorporate the abs. And then just because I was increasing my strength, a friend of mine invited me to a yoga sculpt class. She probably recognized that I was maybe talking more about resistance training. And so yoga sculpt was her go-to workout. So she invited me to one. And I've done a yoga sculpt class in the past, but I never really kept consistent with it. And so this time around, I don't know if it's because I'm building that strength from within. It was just a really good workout. I feel like it's been challenging me to be even stronger. They really push you, and it's heated yoga. It's about 90, 93 degrees. And I grab 5 pound weights and also 8 pound weights, but it's really added an extra push and an extra just challenge in my fitness routine. So when we talk about elevating, it's just maybe there's a little something else that you could do, whether it's in your workout routine, even your skincare routine. Maybe it's just getting a new eyelash curler. That's something I need to do because that little rubber thing in an eyelash curler keeps popping out. So I need to get a new one because when you think about it, we're striving to be a better version of ourselves. At least I know you are striving. Whoever is listening, I know you are striving to be a better version of ourselves. So that better version of ourselves, act like that better version of ourselves as if we are already that person. And so the person who I'm striving to be will not have a broken eyelash curler. So it is time for me to get one of those, just a new eyelash curler. So, it doesn't have to be anything big. Maybe it's been some time since you started a workout routine. So maybe it's a 20-minute walk that will get you going. And you never know, that could lead to something else. And, as far as physical, um, it could be, like I said, just a morning walk. It could be adding a yoga practice or just bumping up your workout routine. And I've been pretty active, my whole life since high school. Um, but I feel like just in the past maybe 5 or 7 years or so, I become more my workout routines have been more authentic to me, my lifestyle, my goals. Before I was just trying anything. And of course, before you start any workout routine, I would, you know, suggest to reach out to a fitness expert. I'm not an expert by any means, but I've tried so many things and I've tried TRX, which I love. I've tried CrossFit, which I don't love. Bar is another thing. It's love-hate relationship, more hate. And if anything, I mean, kudos to those who practice bar, but that is intense. So I've really honed in to what really works for me. So you'd want to talk to a specialist or maybe just try different activities and see what works for you because when you push so hard in something that really doesn't align with you, you may not see results. But when you do something that aligns with your goals and what works for your mind and also your body, um, maybe you'll put more effort and energy into that activity. So for me, my go tos are morning walks or evening walks, just walks in general, in nature, outdoors. Like it just feels so good to be outdoors, especially when the sun is out. Yoga, mat Pilates, Pilates reformer, yoga sculpt, and yoga sculpt. Like I can't do high impact cardio, but with yoga sculpt, even though it is high impact, it's not so much too much jumping around because the jumping around is what caused me to get sciatica from running. I used to jog back, just maybe 10 years ago, but no more jogs for me. So walks are my jam. I love walking by the beach, just walking at the park. Yeah, just walking outdoors with my dog. So just incorporating different activities, maybe leveling up, finding what really speaks to you and your body. And then when it comes to our diet, and of course, if I'm just saying diet, I don't believe in diets. I just know that eating healthy with high proteins, leafy greens, vegetables, and fruits, reducing sugar is really good for you. And recently I started a summer cut. I was inspired by Kelby Mueller. She came across I came across her page on Instagram and I had been following her for about a month or so because she does yoga sculpt classes. So I came across Kelby's page and I've just been following her workout routines and she's just really inspirational because I've been really focused on yoga sculpt and so it just motivates me to take a yoga sculpt class. And she recently did a summer cut and so I was like, you know what, this is the perfect time. April is the best month to do a summer cut right before, summer. And so with a summer cut, and of course talk to a nutritionist, fitness expert, and with a summer cut, typically you'd bulk up first. I don't lift heavy weights or anything like that. It's mostly Pilates reformer, maybe 5 pound weights with my yoga practice or Pilates practice, and even with yoga sculpt. But you gain the muscle. And then after that, you stick to a high protein diet, reduce sugars, and at least for me, that's what I'm doing to just shed any extra layers. And then once you shed, the muscles underneath all that will just peek through. So that's the goal. It's the end of week one, and I already feel so much more clarity. So it is the end of week one. I, with my coffee, I usually do French vanilla. I usually do oat milk and like a splash of French vanilla creamer, but no more French vanilla for the next 5 weeks now. And after dinner, I'll usually have, maybe even during the day, I'll have like a sweet treat, a little bit of dark chocolate. And so I've eliminated the dark chocolate from my menu. And so I already feel so much more clarity. I feel good. I feel lighter, stronger. I've been going on 2 mile walks with my dog every day, keeping up with either yoga or Pilates or yoga sculpt. I alternate. So I already feel so much more clear and aligned, and with that, regular exercise, a balanced diet, and sufficient sleep not only strengthens our bodies, but also sharpens our minds, reduces stress, and also helps us make better decisions. And it's so true because, like, I already feel so much more clear. And with this clarity, it's allowed me to really focus on my goals and what I want to accomplish. You know, it's allowed me to become more self aware and also to self regulate. And with self regulation, it just isn't about rigid control. I mean, it is about controlling our actions, but we're human and we're going to fall off track. We might redirect or we may fall off track, but with that self awareness, we could redirect if needed and adjust a path. Of course, we're going to make mistakes or not necessarily make mistakes, because I feel like redirection is just it's just another way, whether it's an obstacle or it's just another opportunity to learn and to understand ourselves. And when we redirect, I feel like that's when we become self-aware. When we recognize that it's time to redirect, that's when we could strengthen our self-awareness. When you have that clarity and know that it's time to redirect, that's when we can strengthen that self-awareness. And I think one of the things too, when we elevate ourselves, we're fearful, you know, we may be we n- may you may not even recognize it or know it, but you may be fearful of who you're going to become because you haven't been that person before, or maybe you're not sure if you could live up to the expectations of that person because it just seems like so leveled up. But in the process, you become stronger. And so you're becoming this person, you're becoming that person. There's no magic pill, there's no overnight, success. It's over time you're becoming this person. And as you progress, it just becomes so natural because you're becoming that person. So you're naturally becoming this better version of yourself, and whether you're whether you want to elevate yourself mentally, physically, whatever your goals are, maybe it is professionally, but truly feel that it all starts from within. And another thing with elevating ourselves, it's almost like we have to act as if we are that person now. So, what would the elevated version of you do if it came to fitness? Are you going to, hit snooze when it's time to get up, when your alarm goes off? Or, would that elevated person know, okay, I set my alarm for this time for a purpose. It was to get up and so I could go for a morning walk before work. You have to become that person now, or you really are that person now. It's just your mind has to believe it. So this summer cut is only a 6 week thing, and I imagine 6 weeks from now, am I gonna, I'm I imagined like I imagined in 6 weeks, if I don't do what I know I need to do, is my future self going to be upset at me? Am I going to have regrets? Am I going to go, okay, if I don't do it, if I don't keep up with this cut or with this, I don't even have like a specialized routine. I'm just cutting out, sugars and increasing my cardio. But if I don't follow up with it, and then in 6 weeks, I'm not, I'm going to be where I'm at with what I'm capable to do. But if I just don't even do anything about it, like I'm like, you know what, I'll start tomorrow. If I keep saying I'll start tomorrow, in 6 weeks, that my future self is going to regret it. So I'm acting as if my future self has already accomplished this goal. So I am just keeping up with her and who I want to be and who I envision myself to be after a 6 week cut. So that has helped me stay motivated and determined and committed to not just myself, but to my future self. And so you have to kind of think in a delusional kind of mindset because it's not the now. I mean, it's the now because we're taking the action steps, but it's also our future self that will thank you later. And so, like right now, it's been a week, and my future self now is thanking myself a week ago for keeping up with, the my fitness routine, keeping up with eating healthy. I'm thankful that, I even had chocolates at home and I brought it to work so my colleagues could have the chocolates. Sorry, guys, but I know you guys loved it. And so I even threw out my French vanilla creamer before I started because I didn't want to have any kind of temptation or, urge to just like, oh, it's in the fridge, might as well use it. I don't want it to go bad. So I threw that out. So, in a way, like it's a week later, but this is my future self. And I'm thanking myself a week ago for sticking to this whole thing. And I did yoga sculpt this morning, which was a great class. I did yoga sculpt twice this week. But so, yes, we have to act as if we are that better version of ourselves now. And another thing that I've really just kind of discovered, and it kind of just has to do with perspectives and how we see things because, we tell ourselves stories of why we can do something or why we can't do something. And so, if we're going to tell ourselves, I don't have enough time. I'm so busy. I've got deadlines. I just I'm not able to do it. And so, like we tell ourselves these things and of course our mind is going to believe it because we're telling ourselves and making these things to be true. But if we tell ourselves, we do have time. We do have 30 minutes in a day to go for a walk. We do have 20 minutes in a day to do like a morning stretch, you know? We do have an hour before work. If you currently wake up say at like 6:30 and you need that extra hour, maybe go to bed earlier the night before and wake up at 5:30 in order to do all those things if you need to wake up at 5:30. I'm a morning person and I do have a regular job and so sometimes I go in later in the afternoon, but I still naturally get up between 5:30 and 6 o'clock to get what I need to get done. My morning walk, my yoga practice, either yoga sculpt or mat Pilates. I make myself breakfast. Poached eggs over arugula is the best with side of avocado and a little splash of balsamic, which I ran out, so I need to get some more of that. So, so, so good, you guys. I'm just getting so much better at making poached eggs. Anyways, yes, so there are things. If you feel like you don't have time, you can make the time. That's if you want to, and I feel like the people listening, you guys want to. That's the crowd I'm talking to. The crowd that really wants to, but something is just not, is preventing you to. And it could be the story, but it can also be to what we tell ourselves. We hold on to what's holding us back. We hold on to the healing process. And I'm guilty. I've held on to, my dad died when I was young. I've held on to this idea of rejection or abandonment. And so I've held on to this story of if I don't know, like people are just going to leave and that could even, impact my self-worth. Am I worthy enough to be the best version of myself? allowed to be the best version of myself. Who are people what are people going to think of me when I become someone different? You know? Like, but I realize it doesn't matter what they think. It doesn't matter. I'm going to become the best version of myself, and who is going to stay in my life will stay in my life, and who doesn't, and that's all good too. It's just another redirection. But one thing I've realized, rather than holding on to what's holding us back, you know, a new perspective I recently just came across is, well, what energy is pulling me forward? And when I heard that, I was like, that was like an aha moment. It was another perspective because there's a pull inside in you. I know there's a pull inside of you that's wanting to change. And so when you could lean on that pull, what is allowing you to pull forward? We're holding on to the past, and that pull that's pulling us forward is there's a resistance because we're holding on to the past. We're holding on to our current self. Our current self is living in survival mode, and your future self doesn't live in survival mode. Your future self lives in a winning state, in abundance. It lives in, I can do this. I am worthy of this greatness. I am worthy to take care of myself. I am worthy of all the good things. And so, when I heard that, I was like, this is a whole new other level. What is actually pulling me forward? And, you have your own whys of why you need to become healthy, of why you need to change your eating habits, why you need to exercise. You have your own reasons. And so, what is it? What's pulling you forward? And, it's not to disregard what's holding you back, but we heal over time. If we keep waiting until we're fully healed, we may not ever start. We're always healing from something. And I've learned, I had to take time to really, I had to take time and step away and find, find and work on what I needed to, I guess, heal. But I've learned that over time, I'm always healing, and I'm healing through experiences. So it's just getting out there, experiencing something new, and you learn so much more about yourself in these experiences. Sure, it's cool to like take a moment, take a few months, take a year if you need to heal and work on yourself. But we can only heal for so long in solitude. That's what I did during COVID. I just spent the whole year, maybe 18 months of just healing, writing, journaling, meditating, practicing yoga. It was perfect. It was perfect for me. And I just found a better version of myself in that time. But I had this sense of peace that I didn't want to disturb. So even after COVID, like, just maybe until just recently, I just stayed in that little safe space because I didn't want to disturb my peace of mind in that cozy little bubble. But I recognize that, opening myself up to different experiences has allowed me to learn more things about myself. So we're healing over time. So if you've healed, certain areas, or at least recognize what you've healed, it's time to just push forward now. It's time to lean into what's pulling you to go forward because, we may feel like it's painful. We may distinguish or we feel this pain, right? But um, you might be connecting that pain with something holding you back when really that pain could be your future self saying, hey, it's really painful staying in this place. Like, I know that you want to go forward. You're smart, you're beautiful, you're worthy. And that pain is just your soul possibly saying, hey, let's push forward because it doesn't want to stay in this place anymore. It wants to grow, it wants to evolve, it wants to elevate, it wants to become a better version of of yourself. And so when we can lean on to what's pulling us to be better, that's when you can grow, and that's when you can have a more abundant mindset and it's just a whole other perspective. That was just an eye opener for me. It was truly an aha moment. I just came across that in a talk that I listened to, and I was like, you know what? That's a really good perspective to really hone in on what's pulling me to go forward rather than what's holding me back. Because what's holding us back hasn't gotten us anywhere. And so you could be, and at the same time, you could be going forward, but maybe with something that's not in tune with you or not aligned with you. So you could be going and going, but you're standing still. You could be walking in one place, but when you do something that's truly authentic to yourself, then that's when you could feel that productivity. That's when you could feel that you're fulfilling your own void with substance. And so with that, I feel like it's just taking care of ourselves physically and mentally, fulfilling our own cup, filling our own void in order to find the clarity, to find the self-awareness, to find all those things that allow us to make better decisions, to make good choices in our health and our fitness, and also to avoid any kind of distractions, because distractions can be so subtle and detour you from, your goals, your values. And if you don't have that clear mindset and that strong mindset, or even recognize your value, something could be so enticing and you could detour, and kind of detour from your own values and beliefs, and you mold yourself into another person's values and beliefs because you're not truly sticking to your own. And so when you can truly take care of yourself mentally, physically, it truly changes how you see yourself. It changes the decisions you make. It impacts the decisions you make. And again, if you do redirect and get distracted, you have that clarity and that self-awareness in order to adjust and reconnect and go back on the right path that, aligns with you. And so there are different ways to, focus on physical and mental wellness. Of course, I've mentioned it before: outdoor walks, yoga, journaling, meditation. And it's just setting time aside for it and really making it a priority. And if that's something that you want to work on, it's putting those things first on the priority list, rather than putting them off for the end of the day. Because by the end of the day, or actually, whenever you feel you're most at peak. So if your peak is in the morning, maybe going for a walk in a yoga class in the morning, or maybe for some your peak is at night. And so I've always liked working out in the morning just because it sets me up for the day. It and it get in also it's just out of the way as well. So it's just about prioritizing and putting those things into your schedule. And over time, these things like a morning walk and yoga, it becomes so routine. It just becomes part of your everyday. And when you get used to it, it just becomes part of the routine. Like it's like brushing your teeth, making yourself a cup of coffee, going for a walk, and going to a yoga session. It just becomes an everyday thing, or maybe every other day thing, but it's set in your routine. It's almost automatic. Like it's just part of it. It's not like going out of your way to do something. It just becomes part of the routine. And so, but that's just with consistency and, of course, and with practice, and in that you become stronger. You become stronger, and you want to do it even more. And there might even be days when you skip a walk or you skip a practice, and then your body just feels like out of whack, like, wait a minute, it needs something. And then you go back to that yoga practice and you're like, oh my gosh, I definitely needed this class. And then just that gratification will make you want to do it again and again and again. And so, just giving back to yourself. I've talked about this before many times, just building that internal, foundation within yourself. And, it just brings out so many different parts of ourselves that we don't even recognize is happening, because when our mind is foggy with distractions or just even sugar, um, we're not thinking, you know, we're obviously thinking, but we're not thinking at a high elevated level. Like there's just so much more clarity when you can truly fuel yourself physically and mentally. So, when it comes to elevating yourself, it can be physical, mental, it could be your beauty routine, it could be something so small, but just to elevate yourself. Maybe it is something external, just for to start. Maybe it is getting, new makeup or maybe a new outfit just to feel like a different person for a minute. But, you know, of course, when we do that, we're masking ourselves, we're masking maybe it's sadness or pain when you could have a full face makeup and a very cute, sexy outfit, but feel so sad and depressed inside. You could have your yoga outfit or your, athletic wear on with no makeup and feel the best version of yourself. So, it's like when those two worlds can meet, when you could feel so good inside that you want to dress better, you want to enhance your makeup, not necessarily you have to wear makeup, but it's just a reflection. When you feel good inside, you're what y- the external is just a reflection of that. So if you are wearing an outfit, and yeah, exactly. It's exactly that. Like your outfit could be a reflection of what you feel inside. If you're wearing an outfit that's trying to hide depression, that's trying to hide the sadness, it's going to be obvious. If you're wearing something that's authentic to you and just makes you feel good, it's gonna look like the clothes aren't wearing you, but you're just wearing the clothes, and it's gonna look so natural because it's coming from a different place. Like I've been there, you know, um, I've been there when I see my different styles over the years, it's like it truly is a reflection of what I was feeling inside. Maybe it was for external validation, maybe it was to compete. I don't know, but it was whatever I was feeling was a reflection. It could start with some things like that. It could just start with a nice outfit because that really elevates ourselves, like a good outfit, a new basic wardrobe, getting that new eyelash curler and maybe even a new mascara. You're supposed to change your mascara, I think, every month or 2 months. So maybe elevating your skincare routine. But when we elevate ourselves, whether it's external, internal, when those two worlds can meet, it's like we just feel good. It's a different glow. And people recognize that. People attract to that. And when you have that vibration, nothing can really mess with you. And of course, things are going to come our way, curveballs are going to come our way, but you'll see that how you react to those things will be so different than who you were before because you're able to take on those, challenges or obstacles. But yeah, so just fueling yourself from the inside out, elevating, your fitness and mental, elevating your fitness and mental health. If you hit a plateau in your workout routine, maybe you just need to try a new activity, maybe add resistance training to it. It could be something so minute, something so small, but can just give you that extra challenge. It truly is about, you know, mindset and clarity and a perspective and your why. Why do you want to elevate? Why do you want to change? There's something in you that wants to change, and we're holding on to what's pulling us back. Let's focus on what's pulling us forward because something wants us to grow. There is an energy within you that wants to grow. So let's lean in on that energy, and you never know, you'll find the best version of yourselves. So anyways, you guys, I did post on Instagram and asked you guys what you wanted to talk about for the next episode, and you guys voted for relationships. So I did do a podcast. This is when I just had my podcasts on Spotify. I did talk about relationships, but that was about a year ago. So yeah, maybe the next one I'll talk about relationships and, just from recent experiences and even from experiences I've heard from friends. I do have a guest a friend who'd like to be a guest speaker for the next one, and relationships is just in our cup of tea. So, you never know, maybe in the next one, I will have a guest speaker, at least in the next episode, or maybe the one after that, because we have to get prepared and, you know, schedule a date for that. Anyways, you guys, I hope this gave you some new perspectives, new things to think about, and to elevate from the inside out, because you are worthy, you are deserving, and you are so special that you deserve everything that you want and need. And when it comes to that, it's about giving back to yourself. You have to give back to yourself first. So, I'm here for you guys and cheering you on. And if you do want to start this summer cut, or at least, just eat healthy with me for the next 5 weeks, join me, because I think I'm doing this by myself, and Kelby is in a different state, and she doesn't even know who I am, but I am doing this by her side. So maybe you can join me too. So, it's not easy, but the outcome is just so great. So, anyways, you guys, that's all I've got. So, until next time, you guys, live well, and of course, yoga. Bye.